Athletic Football Show is presented by State Farm. State Farm offers surprisingly great rates. Whether you're a quarterback who calls plays in the huddle or an armchair quarterback who calls the game from your living room, State Farm has you covered with surprisingly great rates on car insurance. Because like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Get a quote today. Hey guys, over the last couple months we've been telling you about this amazing app called Game Time that makes it easy to find the best deals on last-minute tickets. You can actually get up to 60% off. For those of you who haven't given it a shot yet, Game Time is upping their offer to $20 off your first purchase. That's right, $20 off on top of their lowest price guarantee. Here's what you do. Download the Game Time app in the Google Play or Apple App Store. Click on the Account tab and then redeem code. Enter The Athletic 20. Again, that's The Athletic 20, all one word, and get $20 off your first purchase. This is free money, guys, so what are you waiting for? Download Game Time now, redeem code The Athletic 20, and score the best deals on tickets today.
This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight is my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. We were curious if Josh Allen could kind of repeat the Week 16 performance, or I think he kind of did. I think he went above and beyond that performance from a few weeks ago against the Patriots.
I mean, not a joke. One of the best offensive performances we've ever seen, like in the history of the NFL, playoffs, regular season, whatever. Aaron Schatz tweeted a couple minutes ago, the second best DVOA of any game from any offense since 1983. And if you look at the numbers, it makes sense, right? Josh Allen finishes 21 of 25 for 307 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also had 65 rushing yards. It was the highest completion percentage over expectation of any playoff game in the last 5 years. And it felt ridiculous. Like that. I mean, it felt like an absolute and total ass kicking in every single way.
It really did. Football Perspective had a tweet today, or at the end of the game. It's the first time ever there was no punts, no kicks, no turnovers, no failed fourth down attempts from the Bills offense. It's the first time an offense has ever performed like that. And it's just absolutely, that's how it felt in just different ways. They found different answers. It was just an absolute onslaught. And sorry if my connection's real bad. I have no idea what's going on. That's how much the nuclear performance of Josh Allen has wrecked my internet, apparently. But honestly, it's been just absolutely ridiculous what this Bills offense did tonight, and it was a huge explosion.
I mean, you can just look at the start of that game. I mean, it didn't take long for us to get a feel of what it was going to look like. On the first drive, he had that 26-yard scramble where he just had a little bit of space, took it. And a couple different times early in the game, the Patriots struggled to keep him in the pocket. They struggled to keep him in the pocket, and as soon as he had a little bit of an opening, he was taking it every single time. And then you look at it, it wasn't just him scrambling as a runner. It was them designing things for him as a runner. I mean, every single time it was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Even on that first drive, they ran a power run with him. On a 3rd and I think 4 later in the game down in the red zone, they ran a quarterback draw with him. And having that as a weapon, this version of him is as dangerous as you can possibly be as a quarterback. I'm willing to say that. You cannot be a more influential, scarier player as an NFL player than Josh Allen was in this game.
And that's what they say, changing the math, and you can actually see him changing the math, and not just the box count with the quarterback being the +1 runner, just like what you said, the QB design runs, but also scrambling and breaking contain and anything of that sort. It's just absolutely ridiculous what he's able to do. Because I'm gonna get out here with my internet real quick.
It's going to take a quick break here. We're going to hopefully figure out our internet, which is a great bit of timing here as we're doing these games live after they end. I mean, you watch that game, and I was going to say this a little bit later, but I might as well get into it now when I don't really need any sort of person to bounce this off of. The Bills' offensive performance tonight, we'll get into a lot of the reasons that it was successful, the reasons that it was dynamic. When I watch that game, I think about, selfishly, Brian Daboll and Justin Fields and what it may look like, because that when you see that game and that performance from the Bills offense, what I see is offense that's completely tailored to the skills of its quarterback. I mean, he's a supernova of a quarterback, but all the things they asked him to do, all the things he did well, that offense is specifically tailored to him. That offense doesn't come from anywhere, right? Like, that's not Brian Daboll's system necessarily. That is a pieced together Frankenstein of all of the different places that Brian Daboll has been, the things that he's done. And it's tailored to Josh Allen's strengths. So when you look at a quarterback like Justin Fields, who is really talented, right? We talk about Josh Allen is his own world. But if you're going to build a quarterback who has similar physical traits to Josh Allen, Justin Fields, who's 6'2" and change, 230 pounds, runs a 4.5 40, has an absolute missile launcher for an arm, it's similar. There's a lot of different things to take into consideration about what Brian Daboll is as a candidate, what you look for in head coaching candidates. And I don't want to get too swayed by what just happened during this game, but it's hard not to. It's hard not to look at what that is and say, let's take a look at Josh Allen's developmental path, how they've built this offense around him personnel-wise, how they've built this offense around him schematically, and graft that onto a quarterback that's as talented as Justin Fields. I mean, there are, again, questions about Brian Daboll's personality, if it's right for being a head coach, all the different things that come with it. But I think if you look at the pure offensive performance and what they've built around their quarterback, it'd be hard not to get excited if you have a young quarterback like Justin Fields.
I'm glad I came back right for this discussion, right for the Justin Fields, Brian Daboll discussion. Is hopefully my internet's clear by this point because
it's not.
Oh my God, I can't do anything else. I did the internet speed test and I'm like off the charts, so I have no idea what else how to do this. But honestly, I could see the excitement of going with Daboll and Fields. Like, honestly, it's just like seeing him be able to push the ball and attack all different parts of the field. That's exactly what you want to like compare with this offensive coordinator. That kind of credit to him for like tweaking the offense throughout the season, because like middle of the season we're getting a little bit worried, and really since the Bucs game, really since December started, they've really found a new angle for this offense. Honestly, I have no idea how else to do this internet, because this is the best I can do right now.
All right, so let's just talk about a couple of just like the specific throws that he made. Was there one of those throws that was your favorite, one that jumped out more than some of the others?
Shoot, I actually like the little glance RPO, like that. I think it would put the score like 40-13. All right, let me restart the computer and see if I can just go all the way back in. Sorry, guys.
Ken, let's press pause here
It's
really
okay.
quickly.
It's all right.
Let's just go to break really quick, Ken.
All right. Yeah, we'll hit our break now, and Nate's going to restart his computer, and
We'll see you
We'll be
guys in a
back.
second. Hopefully we can get these technical difficulties figured out. I appreciate it.
yeah. All right.
We'll return after these messages.
Those of you who listen to this show know that it's been a rough year for us Bears fans. It's been a rough couple of years, to be honest with you. There are moments where I feel like, would it be easier to just move and pick a new team? But every time I consider that, I think about all the hassles of moving, including moving heavy furniture, taking it apart, and putting it back together. But if you're a longtime listener of the Athletic Football Show, you already know there's a furniture brand that might as well be made for moving. Burrow. Easy to assemble, easy to move, Burrow's innovative modular design and super helpful instructions make assembling and disassembling your furniture quick and hassle-free. So when it's time to move, your Burrow furniture won't hold you back. Their credenzas are perfect for your TV, with adjustable height interior shelves and cord organizing holes at each corner, which is very important to me. I hate exposed cords. Also, their award-winning Nomad sofa has a built-in USB charger. No more fumbling around for an outlet, trying to situate your room so you can be close to a place to plug in your phone. They're also easy to shop for. Ditch the warehouse and shop online. Everything is designed to work perfectly together in your living space. Plus, Burrow's world-class support team is available for whatever you need. You can also save an average of $100 on large items like a couch with fast, free shipping on every order. Right now, you can get $75 off your first order at burrow.com/maze. That's BURROW.com/MAYS for $75 off your first Burrow purchase. burrow.com/maze. I don't know about you guys, but it's hard for me to get motivated to exercise when the weather is wet and cold. It's been nasty in Chicago over the last couple weeks. The last couple of days, there's been ice everywhere, and just looking outside, you can just feel how bone-chillingly cold it is. But you've got goals to meet and miles to log, so keep your feet warm and dry with the weather-repellent Wool Dasher Mizzle Shoe from Allbirds. Don't let winter storms put a damper on your run. Grab a pair of the weather-repellent Wool Dasher Mizzles from Allbirds. I love the Wool Dashers that I got from Allbirds. It's just a really good way to get out and still maintain your exercise habits even when the weather starts to turn. Allbirds printed the Wool Dasher Mizzle's carbon footprint right on the shoe, so you know its impact on the planet. Then they offset that footprint to 0 to make it a carbon-neutral product. Allbirds built the Wool Dasher Mizzle shoes to have a low environmental impact so you can break a sweat without breaking the planet. This winter, keep your feet cozy and dry with the Allbirds Wool Dasher Mizzles. Discover your perfect pair at allbirds.com. That's ALLBIRDS.com. The beginning of a new year is a great time to finally start things, like diets, workout routines, or thinking about your financial future. Even if you don't plan on getting off your couch in 2022, you should at the very least do one responsible thing while you sit there. Check out wealthfront.com. You can start investing in no time with Wealthfront's classic portfolio, or make it your own with things that you care about, like socially responsible funds, technology, crypto trusts, or hundreds of other investments. Wealthfront was designed by financial experts to help you turn your good ideas into great investments without the hassle of doing everything yourself. Don't want to spend hundreds of hours trying to lower your tax bill? They help you do that. Not sure how to rebalance your profile or what rebalancing is? They do that for you automatically. Wealthfront is trusted with over $28 billion in assets, helping nearly 500,000 people build their wealth. And the best part is their product is so simple that it has 4.9 out of 5 stars in the Apple App Store. To start building your wealth and get your first $5,000 managed for free for life, go to wealthfront.com/maze. That's WEALTHFRONT.com/MAYS to start building your wealth. Go to wealthfront.com/maze to get started today. Still waiting for Nate.
Still waiting for
There's
Nate.
nothing we can do to like just put it to a break right now. There's nothing you can just throw up there.
No, I don't want to end the stream for everybody.
Okay.
But what I wanted to ask you was what you thought of these Buffalo fans in this incredible 6-degree weather, sticking it out for this playoff game.
Listen,
because I was sitting here like, that would not be me right now, even if I was in Buffalo.
So a couple different thoughts about this. One, do you see the video of the guy doing the Randy Macho Man Savage elbow drop into the table at what time was it? Noon? I mean, that's like 7 hours from kickoff.
That's late for them to be doing that.
There's a lot of Labatt Blues that were consumed in those parking lots from, I'd say, 1 p.m., not 1 p.m., from 8 a.m. until kickoff. I mean, we had like 12 solid hours of drinking with all of those people in that situation today. That's enough to keep you warm for most of the afternoon and evening. So I assume that had something to do with it. Also, these are a hardy people. I mean, You can't compare yourself to someone who grew up in Western New York, because there's just a certain hardiness that comes with that's really hard to understand unless you've been through it every day. I mean, I don't think I would have been able to do it at this stage of my life, but there was definitely a stretch where, being from Chicago and, again, whatever you'd consume in order to get yourself through that, it would have been doable. So I'm proud of them. It's also a great moment. Like, how could you not want to be there, even if it's cold? I mean, the fact that you could be present and experience what that game was like. This wasn't just a game where you beat the Patriots. It was a game where you embarrassed the Patriots. The idea of exercising demons is occasionally overblown in scenarios like this. I do not think it was overblown in this scenario. I mean, that was decades of frustration and pain that were let out kind of in one singular moment as they did that during that game.
Yeah, you think about, all those years the Patriots held the Bills back, and all that frustration being let out, and you're just happy that they have something to root for now. They have a legitimate quarterback, and they have a team that feels like they can make some noise. I thought they were going to do it last year, but Josh Allen was my MVP pick this year, earlier in the year.
I picked him
Aaron
before the
Rodgers,
season.
Aaron Rodgers played out of his mind. Yeah, he was my pick before the season. That's what I meant. And I mean, the guy is unbelievable. I'm just really happy for all the people up in Buffalo, and to see them, hopefully make a run at a Super Bowl would be incredible, because it's been so long that they've had any kind of success in the postseason.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. You give him that contract after the year because you believe that he's going to be that type of guy. And, we'll dig into this, but if you look at what the Bills season was as a whole, I mean, it was really inconsistent. At certain points, I think near the end of the year, they eventually didn't get there. Aaron Schatz was saying near the end of the season that they were one of the most inconsistent teams in the history of DVOA, like right there in the top 5. And eventually that kind of evened out over the last month of the year or something. But for most of the year, they were the most inconsistent team in football and one of the most inconsistent teams ever. So you knew they had these highs. They led the league in point differential, things like that. But it was a question of whether they could put it together for 3, 4, 5 games. And if they look like this for 3, 4, 5 games, then people should be very, very frightened. I don't know if we'll dig into this completely tonight, but it really is it's the most staggering example of quarterback development since I've started paying attention to the league. For the most part, when you've had these guys who've come out in the first round in recent years, we've seen it right away. Even if they're not top 10, top 15 quarterbacks in year one, for the most part, when guys have come in, you've been able to tell, all right, this guy's got it. This guy's going to stick. Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow were good examples. Last year, Dak in 2016. That did not happen with Josh Allen, right? I mean, Josh Allen had a miserable rookie season. It was one of the worst seasons by efficiency that we've seen in a really long time. And his second year wasn't that good. I mean, there were such pronounced and deep accuracy concerns. And then you just see them incrementally building this team around him and him building himself up. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people that talk themselves into their young quarterback struggling early because of what we've seen from Josh Allen. But it's also a reminder that this can happen. You can bring your guy along. And as somebody who's paid a lot of attention to those sorts of stories recently, it's encouraging. Justin Fields, if you look at EPA and all that stuff, was not great this year. But hopefully you have a Josh Allen-like progress. You have a Josh Allen-like development, and you get a lot more excited about it. Nate's back.
Yeah, he's the gold standard.
Oh, God.
Nate's back. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start from the top, and we're just going to take the conversation from the top.
Sounds good. We're going to start over.
Get all y'all's fresh thoughts on the game.
You get 2 for 1 podcast.
I am sorry.
That's a little preview talk. Now, we normally start around this time anyway, so I think it works out. All right. Here we go.
Hopefully this is working because I'm jacked in. I'm Ethernet corded up.
You look great. You sound great. Yes.
Oh.
The Athletic Football Show is presented by State Farm. State Farm offers surprisingly great rates. Whether you're a quarterback who calls plays in the huddle or an armchair quarterback who calls the game from your living room, State Farm has you covered with surprisingly great rates on car insurance. Because like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Get a quote today. Hey guys, over the last couple months we've been telling you about this amazing app called Game Time that makes it easy to find the best deals on last minute tickets. You can actually get up to 60% off. For those of you who haven't given it a shot yet, Game Time is upping their offer to $20 off your first purchase. That's right, $20 off on top of their lowest price guarantee. Here's what you do. Download the Game Time app in the Google Play or Apple App Store. Click on the Account tab and then redeem code. Enter The Athletic 20. Again, that's The Athletic 20, all one word, and get $20 off your first purchase. This is free money, guys, so what are you waiting for? Download Game Time now, redeem code The Athletic 20, and score the best deals on tickets today.
This is the Athletic Football Show.
All right, let's try this again. To the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays, and joining me tonight, for real, and Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Again, it's good that the new Matrix movie is out because I'm jacked in. Ethernet cord is hooked up. I have a feeling a deja vu happening right now, just a little bit. I'm glad everyone can see me a little clearer. I had to sacrifice camera quality for the live audience, but
we'll take it.
works.
We'll take it.
Well, hopefully
I can hear
it works.
you, and you don't sound like a robot, so this is amazing.
Yes.
All right. We're digging into both games that happened today, and obviously we're going to start with an absolutely ridiculous performance from the Buffalo Bills against the Patriots tonight. I mean, not even an exaggeration. One of the greatest offensive performances in NFL history. Aaron Schatz tweeted right before we started recording, according to Football Outsiders DVOA, this is the second best DVOA game by an offense since 1983. And it felt like it, right? It felt like they could do whatever they wanted against one of the best defenses in football. And this version of Josh Allen is one of the scariest players, one of the 3-4 scariest players in the entire league, full stop.
It's how do you defend this if they're going to the other stat Football Perspective had was that they're the first team to have no kicks and punts, no turnovers, no failed fourth down attempts for an entire game as well. It's no matter which way you shake it, this is one of the most incredible performances ever. And when you're watching a quarterback like Josh Allen, who we already know his athletic talents and how big he is. So I call him the ostrich because it looks like he's running like an ostrich when he's out in open space. But then all of a sudden he could just operate from the pocket now, just calmly dicing up like one of the best defenses in the league. And then on top of that, create plays out of structure. It's just, how do you stop it? Like when he's on, we were wondering if the week 16 performance, if he could repeat it. Well, he repeated it and exceeded it in all different types of ways. That's what's just so much fun.
Well, it was the blend, right? It was the exact type of blend that we wanted to see from that week 16 game, where you have these moments where he's creating out of structure, but he's also making you pay underneath. He's being patient. I mean, there were so many different examples on those first couple drives. A couple stats here before we dig into the specifics, okay? Josh Allen finishes 21 of 25 for 307 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also ran for 65 yards. The highest completion percentage over expectation in any playoff game of the past 5 years.
Okay.
What you saw was more impressive than it might have even seemed at first glance. I was trying to explain this game to my fiance when she was working the whole time. She was not watching it. I was like, yeah, it was absolute ass kicking. She's, oh, so was it kind of boring? And I was like, no, it was not boring at all. It was, you look at his numbers, it was one of the most impressive quarterback games I've literally ever seen, not because of just the final numbers and the final stats, but how they were happening. I mean, he's just delivering missile shots to every area of the field while being so dangerous as a scrambler and a runner. You know, in that first drive, the Patriots, I think, bring some sort of pressure where they overload the left side, gives him a chance to get out the door back to his left. He runs for 26 yards. And then later on that drive, they run a QB power play for him in the red zone on 3rd and 3. At another point in the game, they ran a QB draw for him on 3rd and 4. And this version of him with this sort of standing within their offense is as valuable as you can be as an NFL player, the guy we saw tonight.
You'd hear the stories about Archie Manning, like against Alabama in 1969. He threw for like 450, ran for 70, and he's running around. It's like you'd hear, but like that was in college in 1969. Then you're watching Josh Allen kind of do that in 2022 against a Bill Belichick defense. Like they talk about always hear with quarterbacks that can run. They change the math, and that's defensive coordinators hate it. They change the math, and you see it in the run game. But also, like, the math that changes is like, I've had enough time to prep for this, if you guys can't tell, with me sitting waiting for my internet to work. But changing the math and covering guys man to man, like when you're covering someone man to man, you kind of know 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Okay, all right, I can kind of let up or I can kind of lean. He's not going to throw an overthrow from the opposite hash all the way over my head. That's changing the math too. That's what Josh Allen does. He
changed the calculations in every single way.
Every degree he can. I mean, the Emmanuel Sanders touchdown is just
is that your favorite throw? If you had to kind of rank the throws, is that your favorite throw?
Because that actually in the glance RPO was pretty badass too. Because he put that and that was a great catch by Davis. But I think the Emmanuel
Sanders. Usually you see those glances coming from right to left too. It was interesting to see it kind of flipped around. It was like the mirror image of that play, what it normally looks like.
I know. Yeah, right. Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, the Emmanuel Sanders one though, because that's like a total like FU to corner play. Because it's just like the corner is just like going with him and just like, wait, I have to keep guarding him, and like you can see him try to pick up speed.
It was first and 20.
First and 20. I know. It just sails it over his head. I mean, it's just all the ones that he does. That's in structure, and then all the ones out of structure. And they run play action concepts. The linebackers have to drop so deep, and then it's like, oh, I can check it down, or I could scramble for 10 yards and like make guys like break their ankles. Like, he's incredible. It's insane what this guy could do. He can attack you in so many different ways and attack the entire field, 70 yards deep and 53 and a third, I think it is, wide. Like, he could just do it on every play.
I think a really good example of that is the one that he hit to Gabe Davis coming back across, right? So Davis is alone on the left side. It's a 3-by-1 set. He's alone on the left side as the X, and they're in cover 3. And so the backside corner in that is locked on him in man coverage. And Allen on that play has to drift a little bit in the pocket to his left, gets his eyes back going to the right, and with barely resetting, just launches a 30-yard missile on target to Davis coming back across to that side. And just makes it look easy.
Like the weather's 70 degrees too. Like, that's the other thing.
I know. And it was the fact that he did this and had this sort of game when it was 0 degrees outside is absolutely ridiculous. So I want to talk about this just through the lens of what it says about the Bills' ceiling, because this is what this game felt like to me. It felt like the best version of the Bills' offense. We can get into what that entails here in a second, but it felt like the best version of the Bills' offense. And this ceiling for them always felt possible. Yeah. They were so inconsistent this year. So inconsistent, right? At a certain point, late in the year, Aaron Schatz said they were the most inconsistent team by DVOA in NFL history. They eventually got out of that. They climbed out of the basement, but they were still a very inconsistent team. What this game felt like was their 2020 offense, maybe even a little bit dialed up for certain reasons, mixed with their 2021 defense. Yeah. And if they could ever find that formula, they would be absolutely terrifying. And that's kind of what this feels like. Who knows if that inconsistency takes hold again when they have to go play the Chiefs next week. But if this version of the Bills is the one we see throughout the playoffs, they're the best team in the league.
Yeah. I mean, the defense, it's kind of like the Cowboys a little bit, where the defense was the story a little bit for the Bills in the first half of the year. And it was, but that was scary. It was the defense was actually dominant, like truly against all the bad teams they played. And that was a big thing too. It was like, they played a soft schedule, yada, yada, yada.
As it often is with defense early in the year.
Right. Exactly. But the offense though, like ever since really the Bucs game, I always come back to that Bucs game. And that was like, it just seemed in the second half, they figured out kind of a different way to attack defenses, whether the RPO is actually just making sure, hey, we hand it off every time now, as opposed to like making them shorter passes. Even that glance RPO for the touchdown, that kind of speaks to what they're getting to. Things are more down the field. The play action stuff, using the fullback now. It's like they forced themselves. It wasn't always pretty, but they found a formula that works. And this is like the feather in the cap of really since December. Like since the start of December, this Bills offense has taken a whole new life. And it's like, this is what we weren't expecting the defense maybe to be this outstanding, like not just good, but outstanding. But it's like they've been consistent with that. And now the offense is peaking at the right time. And they're finding, just like the little draw RPOs, the run game. Now they're finding just different actual running back runs. It's like these little sprinkles that are actually working. It doesn't look like they're throwing shit against the wall and hope it sticks. It's actually like, no, we planned this. Like this is all part of our plan, which is fun, which is really fun once you're hitting the playoffs and you're doing that.
So obviously they score on the first drive. They march down the field. And then on the ensuing drive, the Pats try to take a reasonable shot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we talked about this game on Friday, we talked about how with the way the Bills played the Patriots the last couple times these two teams played, no respect, zero. Sticky man coverage.
Yep.
And this is, so on this play, I believe it was man coverage, and it was 1st and 10, right? It's 1st and 10 in shot territory, and they're just in man coverage, the Bills are. And reasonably, because he didn't play last game, and he's the guy who gives you this dial on your offense, right? This kind of feel of your offense. They try to hit Nelson Aguilar on a double move down the left sideline against Levi Wallace.
Yep.
And Micah Hyde somehow gets all the way over there and just makes a ridiculous interception. And it's kind of crazy to say that the game flipped on an interception that happened midway through the first quarter. When he made that play, the game was over because they went down and scored a touchdown. It was 14-0. Patriots punted on their next drive. They pitched the ball on 3rd and 3 from their own 30-yard line. Didn't get it. 4th and 1. As soon as they punted it away, I was like, this is over.
Yeah.
This game is done. As soon as they're going to kick this ball to them, they're going to down and score, and the game is over. And it's crazy that that's how early you could feel it, but you could.
Yeah, those not just the offense. The offense was like, oh my god, you could tell they had an answer for everything. It's just they're so in control. But then the defense, yeah, I agree with that interception because even the 3rd down conversions the Patriots had before then, it was Mac Jones throwing off platform, create a play, and then scrambling on another 3rd down. And it's that doesn't seem sustainable. Yeah, that's not how they.
When Mac is doing it compared to when Josh Allen's doing it.
I know that's a little more oh, this is part of their offense. So what Mac Jones is doing, I'm oh, this is an emergency button that this offense is hitting. But on a double move, this is a kind of quarterback philosophical thing here. Is what do you pump when you're doing a double move? What is a quarterback pump? Because I've had two ways of thinking about this, different coaches I've been around. But you either pump the guy that the route's going on, or you pump the opposite way of the safety, and you get the safety to move from the post.
Like Josh Allen did on the huge shot that Stephon Diggs in this game.
Exactly. But it's always young quarterbacks from high school coaches are like this, college coaches I know are like this. They say, oh, you're pumping the stop and go, the stutter and go. But it's well, the corner is biting on the route. He's not biting.
He's not even watching you. Yeah,
exactly. And you can see Mac Jones pumps the route, not the safety. So Micah Hyde can start leaning, and Mac Jones leaves the throw just a hair inside. Game of inches. But if you don't hold the safety,
throw.
Not a bad throw.
Not a bad throw, but not a perfect throw. Correct. Just an insane play by Micah Hyde.
A B throw, a B+ throw. And but it was just, that's the thing. It's when you don't have those details, when you don't move the safety, don't hold the safety, that extra split second, you make the throw a split second inside or an inch inside. That's those are the things that compound with that. And so that's a hell of a play. And that's why I just want to speak to what the Bills, how their defense was playing the entire night. But it's that was the thing. It was wow, they have to be that inch perfect to score a touchdown. The Patriots offense, that's how well the Bills defense was playing. That's just one, two little not perfect plays, and they're going to punish them. They get the ball back and they just score 5 plays later. It was insane what a complete performance it was.
So obviously a performance like that from Josh Allen, still surprising just because of how dominant it was, but you can imagine it. A couple of guys that stuck out to me that maybe we wouldn't have expected to play like this. Isaiah McKenzie is just awesome.
I guess.
I don't even know what else to say about it. You watch the ways they used him in this game. I made a joke about it on Twitter, but it feels like they were using him like a combination of Devo Samuel and Cooper Kupp. Those are the things they were asking him to do in this game. Multiple different times. They lined up with him in the backfield or him in a split back look with Gilliam as an H-back, the way that the Niners would use Kyle Juszczyk, trying to get some numbers on the perimeter like that. And they were just handing the ball to Isaiah McKenzie. And then he had a chunk play early in the game where, think about what he was doing in the first week or the first matchup, right? In that week 16 game. How many crossers and overs did they just not slow him down on when they were playing man coverage? Mm-hmm. So what did the Bills do? They tweak that expectation. He fakes the over route and returns against Miles Bryant for a huge chunk gain. Those return routes, where you're faking the deep overs and then getting chunks off it coming back, that's what Cooper Kupp does. Those are staples of the McVay offense. So that's what he was today. That's how they're using him. He's just a really good player. There's nothing gimmicky or fluky about this right now. They have just found this really nice presence for their offense.
Yeah, and they use them the perfect amount. Like they didn't go,
Yes, it's
we're
so
gonna hit
true.
them 50,
It's so
we're gonna
true.
use them 50 times, get really excited and like, oh, we gotta figure out. It's like, nope, they sprinkle them in just when they need it, and it gave them that horizontal stretch that the offense needs. Like it's like their way of attacking the perimeter on the run game. Like it's like throwing a ball or throwing or tossing it. And we're talking about like what the Bengals did when we talked to them, but like same way. This is their way of attacking the perimeter. And it's just, I know they just stumbled upon this number 4 receiver that they can, is like a plus weapon that gets to the edge and gets upfield and creates like chunk plays every time he touches the ball. And also like putting him in the backfield and do all that stuff. If the Patriots want to be in man coverage when he's on the field, all of a sudden they have to go, all right,
Yep.
how do we communicate on this? And how do we, which we also will probably see when the Cowboys 49ers game, how Debo's used too. Same exact type of thing, but it makes them communicate all the motions they use.
The perfect example, the one on the shot to Diggs, they were lined up in a 3-by-1 with Diggs to the right. They send McKenzie in a little fake jet, little yo-yo motion, and that's the side that Allen pumps to, and then he comes back to Diggs. So even when he's not the focal point of the play, they are understanding how to use him as window dressing, eye candy, however you want to describe it. And that's what it felt like today. Obviously, Josh Allen ascended through the astral plane. But the coolest part about this is that it was everything. It was every single guy doing it right. Like you said, knowing exactly how much of each ingredient to sprinkle in there. And that's what it felt like throughout the course of the entire game. Anything else just structurally or schematically that jumped out to you that you thought was cool or notable, just little things that they tapped into that you felt like were particularly effective?
The Reggie Gilliam using the fullback and they got to those run plays because the Patriots are matching with nickel. So they're matching with, even if they go base personnel, which is their, I don't know how you want to consider Gilliam, but we're 41. So we'll call him 21 personnel. But like also
I feel like they used him exactly like the Niners used Juszczyk today.
Yeah.
Like that's how I felt like they were using him. Yes. It's just like a way to kind of flip certain things. Continue.
Yeah. But using him and like they get to the counter plays, and why that helps so much to have him is, okay, if you want to match with nickel, you run certain fronts out of certain personnel grouping. So if you're in base for the Patriots, they have certain fronts. If they get into nickel, they have certain fronts. If they get into dime, they have certain fronts. So it's like, if we can guarantee, okay, wow, they're matching us with nickel, they're going to run this front against this formation that we run with him on the field. So that's how they get to the counter. And it's like the juiciest counter look that you can get. Like, I mean, it looked like clinic tape, just how the guys are pulling to like where they have, everybody's loaded to the other side. It's exactly what you want with a counter punching counter. But it's like just sprinkling those plays in where it's not just telegraphed. It's not like he's in there and it's like, oh, I formation run. It's like, no, they're getting to different runs and different pass plays with him in there. It's like, oh my God, it's another layer to their offense rather than just spread formations with option routes to Cole Beasley. It's just another little package that this offense can get to. And that's just such a nice thing to have, especially when the weather gets colder. You're not going to be able to chuck it 50
That's
times.
exactly right. And my fear with this team, when you need to run it, can you run it? When you need to get a yard, when you need to get a couple yards, when teams are begging you to run it, can you run it? Yeah. And the answer tonight was yes. Yes. And for a lot of the reasons you said with Gilliam, the design runs for Allen were another way to tap into that. Do you know who else I thought played really well tonight? Ryan Bates. Their left guard, Ryan Bates. I mean, they've been searching for some consistency at those interior offensive line spots because they've had guys cycling in and out. Yep. They used him as a puller multiple different times in this game where he was making stuff happen. I mean, he whacked Dante Hightower on that run that got Singletary inside the 5-yard line early in the game. That was just so fun to see. It's like, man, good for you, Ryan Bates. I mean, just seeing that. And then there was another play early in the game. I think it was their second drive, the Bills. Second or third drive. They had a 3rd and 1. And they lined up in heavy personnel. They had an extra tackle in the game and Knox, and I think Gilliam was in there as well. And the entire left side of the Patriots or the Bills offensive line just washed down the Patriots. And it easily, Singletary scampered for like 4 or 5 yard gain and got a first down. That's a small thing. But it matters. But for this team where we've wondered about their physicality in certain moments like that, to do that against the Patriots front, that's really encouraging to see. Those are the little things. It's like, all right, man, we're checking a lot of boxes now. The one other play I wanted to mention that I just absolutely loved, a couple of them early in the game. First drive. Okay. Or excuse me, second drive. Bills come out in quads empty, where they had 4 receivers to the right.
Motion Singletary.
They send Singletary in orb motion all the way around.
Yep.
It's clearly man. You're playing with just what the defense is seeing and your understanding of what they're in. And they had Knox come all the way across with Bentley on him across the field. That's a mismatch. If you can get those linebackers in man coverage, you can take advantage of them. Those are big guys. And watching them do that, it's like, oh, they're pulling all the right levers. And the first Knox touchdown was beautiful. Beasley was the number 1 receiver on the right. They sent him in jet motion, so they quickly changed the numbers. Then Diggs was number 1 and Knox was number 2. And Phillips flew out to get outside leverage on Dawson Knox because the Patriots were in a robber coverage with somebody in the middle of the field. It was McCourty. And Allen just played with the leverage just a little bit on that little glance post. And it was just a perfect ball right at the back of his drop. And it's like, they have it. Like they have this game in the palm of their hands. They are every motion, every single thing they're seeing, every little tell that they're getting. They're just completely locked in right now. And that's exactly how it felt.
The one to Knox on the first drive is exactly it. Because they start to overload the 4x1. And then it's like with the Patriots defense, what Belichick wants to do, everything is the structured rules. Okay, 3x1, 2x2. That's why you hear us talk about that all the time. Empty. Usually empty is 3x2 or 2x3, however you want to like shift it. When you go to these 4x1s, they have to communicate who's the double, where there's the help coming from if they're not bringing 5. So when all of a sudden that motion comes all the way around, now they have to go, okay, so who gets the help where? When you have Knox working against Bentley on a vertical route, it's like, well, he has no help. It's just.
But maybe he shouldn't
catch.
That's the guy exactly. He shouldn't help on, and that's the terrifying thing. Is when the role players are starting to burn you down, you're in real trouble.
Yeah.
So
I think just checking all the boxes. I think that's the best way how you put it. They're having answers to question marks that we had against a really good defense.
It's all of these different varied aspects to their offense. I mean, just you look. If I asked you after this game, not what they've been for the last 2 years, but after this game, what is the Bills' offense? What would you say? I mean, they're running counter runs out of spread 21 personnel. Yeah. They're still doing a lot of the spread play action stuff that we've seen from them.
Glance
That's
RPOs.
The coolest part about this is that this feels like how many layers they have to it, how many different elements there are to it. And when I was watching this game, we were talking about this a little bit before, it's impossible for me not to watch that game and what Josh Allen looked like in that offense and have dreams of Brian Daboll with Justin Fields, right?
Oh,
Josh Allen is one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. Not an exaggeration, just in terms of overall skill set, what he brings. We saw it tonight. It's one of the best offensive performances of all time.
Period.
Justin Fields is really, really, really talented. Yes. If you are going to pick a quarterback that's not Josh Allen, that checks as many physical talent boxes, Justin Fields is probably in that conversation of non-Josh Allen quarterbacks. So, obviously this job is about more than dialing up plays and being a play caller. And there are personality aspects. There are leadership aspects. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that are really, really important that aren't to be overlooked. But it's still really hard to watch that game and watch what Daboll is doing with Josh Allen and just how many different answers and how tailored it is to the quarterback and think, I want to see what he tailors around a guy like Justin Fields. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but when I watched that game, it was impossible to ignore that thought.
When you say, oh, we don't really know exactly what the Bills' offense is or whatever, what their identity is, that's actually a good thing.
Exactly.
Because not like you say, that he tailors it. It's
answers
not like
to problems.
It's not Matt Nagy running Andy Reid Jr. offense for a guy that pushes the ball down the field. And he just thinks every quarterback's Alex Smith. So it's like, that's the thing. He answers. What Daboll's done really in the past 6-ish weeks, it's like, that's really been a feather in his cap.
I totally agree.
This is kind of like, ta-da, like this is his piece de resistance, like right at the end of it. Hopefully he can keep it going, of course. But but honestly, it's like, it was kind of cool to see the tweaks that he's adding. And then now it's like, oh, you can adapt to your personnel, because that's what coaching is. It's realizing who your queens on the chessboards are. And Justin Fields could potentially be that. It's really exciting what he's doing with a different kind of the same build of a quarterback, but maybe just, different flavoring with Josh Allen.
All right. I was wondering if we should call this segment something. I was thinking we'd call it 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Oh my God,
with teams that are about to go on vacation.
Hardest I've laughed on this show.
Let's have a little bit of an obituary for the New England Patriots in the season that they just had. When you think about the 2021 Pats, it's going to be the first thing that you think about.
A nice run with a rookie quarterback, and they have a lot of nice pieces, but it's just like it was never felt like a contender of a team, but just always like a good, solid football team. And this is kind of what it felt like. Maybe, push for a wild card seed, maybe win the first game, but not a deep run. It's just like they had their limitations. But this was a nice season. I think it's a successful season for starting with a rookie quarterback.
Where do you think those limitations are? When you watch them play tonight, if you're making a to-do list and kind of a wish list for what the offseason should look like, where do you start?
Speed at receiver. I think that is the number one thing. They have a pretty good O-line, which is so usually always
no
look at
win
that.
tonight, which is tough,
Yes.
and that's something to think about.
Wynn's a good left tackle.
He really is.
Yeah. And so they might lose some guys in free agency. I think Trent Brown is one.
Trent Brown's a free agent, but on Wednesday, hopefully you can step in and he'll be your right tackle. So
and maneuver the guys.
You look at the offensive line. Hopefully they have the bodies there. Yeah. The other free agents to think about, J.C. Jackson's a free agent.
That and notable.
Maybe headed toward a franchise tag. I mean, if you think about just if you're reading the tea leaves and what it might look like, it wouldn't shock me. Hightower's a free agent. Juwan Bentley's a free agent.
That's
so
huge for that.
Some guys, hitting free agency, but they have some money. If they want to move a couple contracts around, it would cost them. But if they wanted to, let's say, move on from Nelson Aguilar next year and make it a post June 1st cut, they could do that and save some money. Not saying that'll happen or should.
Yeah.
But there are ways that they can save and get to $40-50 million in cap space if they want to. I think if you're looking at this, really nice season for Mac Jones, like as good as you probably could have hoped.
Yep.
I wouldn't look at these last couple games and get worried. I wouldn't. I would just think, you know what? They clearly have some limitations. They've clearly bumped up against their ceiling. What needs to happen now? You said speed. I just think a true kind of alpha receiver.
A true X.
Yeah. What that guy looks like, who knows? Like maybe it's Allen Robinson. You know, somebody like that. It just feels like they need. I don't know if they're a team that's going to spend big money on a 30-year-old receiver in free agency, but I think Allen Robinson is still pretty good. If you can go get somebody like that, or you try to get somebody like that in the draft, like this is one of those moments where the N'Keal Harry thing really hurts.
Yes.
Right. I mean, the draft capital you spent on him, what he was supposed to be within your offense, the fact that no longer matters and that's still a hole for you, even after doing that and giving the money they did to Aguilar, that's tough. But it's not all that surprising. That's what happens when you miss on the draft and have to overpay for people in free agency.
Yep. Not Kendrick Bourne though. But if they
great contract, really good
great contract. That's hard to find at receiver in free agency. Yeah. But
Kobe Meyer's also a free agent. So just a lot of potential moves there that they might have to make with their offensive staff. You can find a guy in the
second round. There's some speed. Like there's some good guys they can find in the second. Like they don't have to even spend a first on a guy. Like there's some guys that will work. There's different flavors in this draft. And also just an offseason of them going, understanding what Mac Jones is, a whole season of going, okay, this is what we had as a Patriots offense, Josh McDaniels offense. Okay. All right. So Mac, what'd you like? What didn't you like? Not treating him like a rookie wearing number 50 during training camp, actually going like, hey, this is our alpha quarterback. Okay. Hey, some of that shotgun RPO stuff that you did in college. Okay. Maybe we can tweak that in there, like just some new sprinklings that maybe, blends what he can do well, which is probably going to happen. Josh McDaniels is good at that. So that's another thing that you can look forward to in the next season. But yeah, I just think finding that number one speedy type of guy would just complement who they have, and Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, even Jonnu Smith, all those types of guys that they have.
If you're looking at it, if you're trying to spin this in the most optimistic way possible, you try to convince yourself as a Patriots fan that Mac Jones is Joe Burrow from last year. And I think there are different elements to their game. I think that Burrow's pocket movement, I think, gives him a higher ceiling when it comes to explosive plays. It just
he's so much bigger
kind of extend.
He's
also
realize.
Bigger. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but just think about accuracy, decision-making, lack of receiving talent being one of the reasons that you can't find explosive plays. I mean, just think about how different the Bengals offense looks in year 2 with somebody like Jamar Chase. Obviously, the New England won't be picking in the first round of the top 5, but that would be how I try to spin it as a Patriots fan if I was thinking best case scenario. A lot of their numbers look the same. If you just look at the overall kind of shape of their rookie season, there are a lot of similarities. So that's kind of how I'd be thinking about it if I were talking myself into what year 2 of Mac Jones might look like.
What they need to find isn't the hardest. That's what's nice. That's what's really nice.
All right, we're going to skip our ad break here because we've already had our ad break. It's been a long night already in ways that are kind of strange, but let's get to Raiders-Bengals. All right. First things first. Sad I wasn't at this game. Was really looking forward to it. You know, it's been kind of a shitty week sitting in my house and not feeling 100%. The worst part has been every time my fiance has tested negative over the last few days, she'll just be like, I'm just built different, and then just keep walking. She's just been like, I'm just built different.
Stare at her.
Every single, she does it every single day. It's actually very funny, but I resent her a lot. I also resent not being able to be at this game because it would have been very, very cool to see that environment, because those moments when it's been 30 years since you've won a playoff game and you've bottled this excitement about somebody like Burrow and what this offense has looked like, and you feel like you found your guy, and that guy just exudes pure confidence in the way that Burrow does.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something really cool about that moment. And for them to win this game and just what it's been like and what it's felt like, it's kind of have this we're here moment as a fan base in that building. Those are really, really special days. I would have loved to have seen that, but you could definitely feel it even through the TV.
Oh, absolutely. Cincinnati and Buffalo, just outstanding
totally.
Atmospheres. Like, you forget last year's too, especially with Buffalo, was that it was a COVID year. So there's no fans for those playoff games. So now you get kind of like, it's that pent up energy. You see guys doing Randy Macho Man elbow drops through tables.
My God.
Perfect form, by the way.
That was
bravo.
You know what?
That guy was.
Josh Allen had one of the best games in the history of the playoffs today. That was the most important, and that was the most impressive performance in Orchard Park today. Was that guy doing the Macho Man elbow onto that table?
Perfect. But say you could feel it just in Cincinnati, especially after the strip sack, and you could just feel that
totally,
like like you said, you could feel it through the TV, and it's like you get those goosebumps, that kind of feeling. Like when you're at a live game and then you watch it on TV, like a year or two later, you watch some different game, you're like, oh man, I remember what that feeling is, that smell, that kind of like you're high-fiving random people sitting next to you, like that type of kind of like kind of feeling. But that's just the best, and it's really cool to see when, especially, it's 3 decades of pent-up energy. I mean, that's all you ever heard about Marvin Lewis's tenure there was, he couldn't win a playoff game there with all the talent. And it's like, you just but when you have Joe Burrow smoking cigars, and you kind of like have not just a, oh my God, we're lucky to be here, but like you said, a confidence, even when we have injuries at the offensive front, it's like, well, we still got Joe Burrow. That's such a cool feeling to have as a franchise, like the mouthwash of a good quarterback. It's just like, man,
that's what it felt like today, though, right?
Always.
I mean, this was not the most explosive fireworks show sort of performance from their offense, but they felt really in control. You know, that was,
I would say they don't have one bad drive, like off the top of my head. That's just good.
And I thought they did a few different things that really stuck out. It was, they did such a great job of making the Raiders wrong however they wanted to play it, right? If you were early in the game, just picking on any sort of cushion they gave Chase. They were more than happy to take any sort of comeback that was there. If they wanted to go play an empty and have Boyd play with whoever was covering him in the slot, it was just a very in control sort of game. None of those big monster shots down the field that we had seen, but that's exactly what the Raiders were taking away. And when they were taking those things away, the Bengals were happy to say, we'll take whatever you're going to give us. If you want to give us all that space and all that cushion, happy to eat it up. And the other thing I thought they did a really good job of, if we're talking about controlling the tempo of the game and the feeling of the game, Burrow on first and second down today, 2.5 average time to throw. They never, ever allowed that pass rush to get going.
Ever.
Did a really good job of chipping in the right moments. A couple third and longs where they got heated up in ways that you might expect. And because the Raiders blitzed twice today, they blitzed 2 times. The second time they did it was in the fourth quarter on the 3rd and 7 where they bought the slot. And Burrow saw it, identified it, said it was coming before the play happened, and then hits Chase over the top for a 14-yard gain. And it's like, well, I guess we can't do that. And
Never mind.
That's why. That's why you can't. And you could just feel that sense of unease with Gus Bradley, with the way the Raiders are playing defense the entire game, because Burrow held the controller in his hand the entire time. That's what it felt like from the start.
And that's a game plan coming together. Game plan, knowing which your weaknesses are. And so, like, props to the Bengals coaches. Like, I mean, it's kind of obvious, what the weaknesses are of the Bengals offense. It's offensive line. But it's like knowing, hey, let's get the ball out quick. And Burrow is so good at that anyways. And then he can create a little bit afterwards. But they're just hitting on the outside. They're just running seam turn concepts, which is just 2 seams on the inside. You think of 4 verts, but instead of the outside guys running verticals, they stop. You call it a turn route, a stop route, a deep hitch route, whatever you want to call it. But it's not quick game, but that ball comes out. If you're in the gun, it goes 1, 2, 3, plant, throw.
Yeah.
So that ball, that's why it's under 2.5 seconds, because really it's a 2-second throw. It's extended quick essentially, because it's pick a side. And really the cut, like on those types of concepts, it's 1 to 2 to check down, 1 to 2 to check down, 1 to 2 to check down. But say you shortcut a throw and go, I got Jamar Chase on insert corner name here.
I mean, it was Trufant. After Faison got hurt,
Trufant wearing number 10.
You got Desmond Trufant, who's bounced around the league. I mean, he was a Bear at one point before this season started. I mean, then he was in New Orleans for a second. I mean, there's been a lot of that. And for him to be on Jamar Chase in these moments, there's not a lot you can do.
And
especially when he's getting away with little push-offs early.
It's the short arms. We thought the short arms would be a downside. They actually are an upside to his game, because the refs are never going to call it. He's just going to jack guys like a little punch with the jab. But like even one of the back shoulder throws, because that's what in a Seattle defense, when they treat every corner like he's prime Richard Sherman. And so this is why they teach this. They go, stay over the top, make him throw underneath you, make him throw, back shoulders. But guess what? When it's, Richard Sherman reading routes, like, yeah, it's great. But when you have old Desmond Trufant, I love you, Desmond Trufant, but him trying to stay on top, then it's like, okay, we'll just throw back shoulders over and over and over, or turn.
And then as soon as they step up even 10 seconds, 2 inches, we're throwing it right over the top. And it happened multiple times. And that's just,
that's all it is.
that lever they had the entire game, you could feel it.
Yeah.
I think the Raiders needed to play not a perfect game, but a really good game. They needed to be like one of the better versions of this Raiders team.
They couldn't kick field goals.
And they weren't today.
Yeah.
They just weren't today. Think about how many self-inflicted wounds we saw from the Raiders in this game. Let's start with the late game spike.
Oh my God, can we?
You can't do it.
No.
I mean, you cannot do it. You have to understand in that moment with 30 seconds left, the down is more important than the time. And they just, again, the same way it felt like their defense was scrambling, you could sense that unease all day.
Yep.
In these game management situations, you could sense that unease from the Raiders. You had the spike in that moment. Earlier in the second half, they burned 2 timeouts in plays where you just can't do it. Hayward had to burn one when they had 12 men on the field. And then before the 4th and 5, they had to burn another one. So now when you need those timeouts later in the game, eventually you have to spike the ball on first down and you lose a down. I mean, it all starts to compound.
It does. And especially all the holdings. I mean, they were getting offensive penalties like the Infinity Gauntlet. Just
every single one.
Oh my God. And all big plays. That's the thing. None of them were like a 1 or 2 yard gain.
No.
It was all 8 yards, 12 yards, 14 yards, first down. Like the one was going to the 1 yard line. And then that just changes the entire complexion of the game. But it's just so funny. Like, run those plays too. Like, it's just like their offense, like spiking the ball. Why you don't want to do that? It's like you said, the downs, you have no timeouts. We know that, but it's 30 seconds into its first and goal. Like, this is it. You got 4 plays. You can't count on 9 penalties like the Bengals against the Chiefs a few weeks ago. This is it. So we have 4 plays. Each play in your head, an NFL play typically takes 4 seconds. So it's pretty much, you have a lot of time there. Like we could run an extended route with 7 seconds. Even the scramble play took 9 seconds, the dog knock. So it's like, you have enough time to get the plays off. So that's why they do so much no huddle stuff, so much at the line stuff with Derek Carr, because he's so intelligent. But that's the thing that also leads to the 4th down timeouts, because he's trying to get to the perfect play. And sometimes it's like, hey, just line up and go.
That happened all day today.
You're on the road.
He's trying to talk in somebody's ear, trying to change something at the last moment, or he's walking up to the line. He's like, what do we do? Let's do this. Let's do this. And they're ticking down the play clock until
every time
2 seconds every single time. And it's like, it was driving me nuts. I was making me physically anxious while watching the game. And it just, again, it led to that feeling of unease that they had. And I thought that the final play, it's 4th down from the 9-yard line. How are you going to have Zay Jones stop at the 1? And then they had Darren Waller in the flat. So to that side, you have somebody standing at the 5, and you have your deeper route 1.5 yards short of the end zone. Like, you can't have one guy near the end zone on that sort of play. And that's just what it was. I mean, it's a small thing to get so worked up about, but those things really started to accumulate over this game, especially when you're not as good as the other team. Those sorts of things really cannot happen. So
That's why
for
I'm sorry, those lack of details compound because, like, okay, Derek and trying to cover to the perfect play, one where he throws the flat to Renfro. So okay, so he throws the flat to Renfro. But he checks into that because Bengals are throwing a pressure look. Okay, they're going out from 3-by-1 or like from the line of scrimmage all the way to trying to run out to it. But the problem was that it was a tight split, and then all of a sudden they throw the flat to Sean Jackson's one trying to block. So it's like, oh man, it's just so brutal to have. Like it's like I get that they're trying to get to the perfect point, but it's not perfect, and so it's just absolutely brutal.
So if you look at it, I would say, if you're trying to pin down a moment where the game might have swung, Nate's going to go off video, so we hopefully will get a little bit of a connection with the audio. If you're looking at it from the moments where the game kind of swung, I would say they were two. Whistlegate, we're going to have a long conversation about it, right? I mean, as well we should. Early in the game, Raiders, understandably so, one of a historically bad red zone offense this year when it came to defense this year when it came to giving up touchdowns, tried to throw a little bit of a curveball. Said, all right, when we get down here and it's going to be third down, we're dropping 8. We're dropping 8 and just flooding the end zone with defenders, and hopefully that's going to give you some trouble. And it did. And on that 1 3rd and 4, Burrow uses that to escape, gets out of the pocket, is on the sideline, nearly steps out of bounds, whips it back to Tyler Boyd, and whistle blows, no call. And the league has come back and essentially admitted that it was the wrong call. It should have been blown dead. We should have replayed the down. And on that play, I mean, that's a game-swinging type of result. Not sure it would have mattered in the end, but in the moment, it's a huge deal.
Referring to the NBC rules analyst as like, okay, no, he's got he's the one that, he's got it. We're not going to actually say anything. He got it. He actually covered all that. But, oh, my God, that was just like, even I get it. It's like, I think the touchdown would happen anyways. But the fact that they didn't even need to blow the whistle because Burrow didn't get out. So it's like, oh my God, you're just compounding the issue of not only did you make the wrong call, that you blew the whistle in the middle of the play. Even though sound travels slower than light, they say that the whistle happened after the touchdown, even though the whistle clearly happened right after Burrow threw the ball. So I don't know if they're just really trying to bend physics with that as well. But that just honestly was just such an incredible, like, insane kind of play. It really was. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a robot.
It's okay. And then, so the other one that was a huge play, and again, if you wanted to tack this up to mistakes by the Raiders, the Hendrickson strip sack.
Yeah.
I don't understand the protection. So it's a max protect call because you have the tight end coming across the formation. I think you had the tight end coming across. No, they had the tight end locked in the backside against Hendrickson, and they had the running back coming across. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be play action. The way that the action was working.
It's their full slide. Like, they get to that when they're trying for a shot play, but they only run the routes to one side of the field usually with it. And so it's kind of like a flash play action, but it's like a full slide protection they do. Just say, hey, we're going to wad it up because they don't want to sort out any of the blitzes or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it was 3rd and 9, so trying to use play action there wouldn't have made sense to me. So I think that makes more sense. But when on the structure of that play, you have Hendrickson alone on Foster Moreau, that's a mismatch. Like, that's absolutely a mismatch. He takes advantage of it, and you have guys wasted on the other side. They brought Jesse Bates on a blitz. Jesse Bates had a really nice game, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. But Hendrickson roasts Moreau, strip sack, and is a huge game-swinging play. Eventually, obviously, they are held to a field goal in that moment. The Raiders actually did a pretty good job of kind of shoring themselves up down in the red zone today. But again, that's a huge moment that feels like as much of a Raiders mistake as it is a really nice play by Hendrickson.
Well, that too. Yeah. And also they went to the same position on the 2-minute drive on a 3rd down and with Darren Waller as the blocker on an edge. And then they did it again on the 4th down. And it's like to me, it's lazy because they're full sliding and saying, we're not sorting out any blitzes that come. We're just going to wad it up. And that's that. But it's like, having Darren Waller stay in, he's one of your best receivers. He's one of the better tight ends in the league. But it doesn't understand to me on a 3rd and season type of play and a down and season type of play that all of a sudden that they're just like, boom, that's it. Like, we're going to have Waller protect as opposed to getting them out on a route. So that kind of stuff, just like, it's like weird lack of detail that they had in like really, really, really big plays for the season.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up our stream just to deal with some of these technical difficulties. We're going to finish up the pod off of this live option. Hopefully, we'll get this sorted out by tomorrow. So if you guys want to come back and check out the live show, you can. Sorry about some of the things that we've been dealing with and kind of sorting through tonight. We really appreciate you guys stopping by, though. Please finish up the rest of this on the podcast version tomorrow. We would really appreciate that. It'll be available for you when you wake up tomorrow. It'll be available overnight. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you guys later.